The Waterford semi-finals are on this weekend. Ballygunner are going to meet 4 Mile Water. Nobody's going to give deny 4 Mile Water a chance there, and probably rightly so. The way I saw Ballygunner play last week against Dungarvan, they just pop the ball around, and it's like they pull out this. They just keep pulling strings until the other team unravels, and that was the case for Dungarvan at times. And it still felt like they had another gear if Dungarvan ever responded. Now maybe Dungarvan would see it a little bit differently, but that's just how it felt watching it. Ballygunner beat them by 12 points last year, and look, I don't know. It's just very hard to make a case for anyone other than Ballygunner. Looking for their, was it 54th, 55th win in a row? Looking for 2 in a row of championships.
Going for 54 in a row. Haven't been beaten since that 2013 county final. 4 Mile Water obviously gave them lots of it 2 years ago. Was it in a quarter final? I think Desi Hutchinson popped up with 2 points near the end of the game to kind of save Ballygunner, but they look like they're in a completely different position this time around. And 4 Mile Water really struggled to beat Abbeyside at the weekend, despite having a numerical advantage. So, like, all signs point to Ballygunner there. You'd have to say, maybe they, like, even pretend. I'm just even thinking down the line, and maybe I'm disrespecting 4 Mile Water here, but they could be somewhat undercooked potentially going into a county final. And maybe if you're going to catch them, that's when you'll catch them. But traditionally, over the last few years, Ballygunner have often saved their best. It's almost like they wait for the TG4 cameras to come, and they produce their best in a county final. And I know it was a bit of a quagmire when they played Mount Sion there last year in the final. It was a woeful day, but years before that, they gave Roemore a fair hiding in 2021. They dished out a big hiding to Passage in 2020, I think, as well. But yeah, no, very, very impossible to see past Ballygunner here, realistically. A couple of interesting questions within Ballygunner. Patrick Fitzgerald limped off, I think, at the end of the quarter final. Will he start? He was taking the freeze over Pádraig Mahoney. Mahoney's not a bad exactly plan B free taker to have. Who will hit them? Will Fitzgerald be fit to start? Will they risk him? It's obviously week on week as well, so things get a bit tricky. If someone picks up a knock, you only have a week to recover. But yeah, no, Ballygunner roaring hot favourites there, and justifiably so.
Some comments here about the redrawing of the county boundaries when it comes to voting here. Joe Butler, guys, what do you think about Tullaroan being associated with Tipperary for voting purposes in a redraft of the constituencies? Something will have heart failure. And PUL74 says, what about Urlingford and parts of Tullaroan entering the North Tip electoral constitution? Real men in Tip now. Looking to sort of get me going. Look at, if they want to get their day passes so they can come into Tipperary and be close to the Golden Veil, we're absolutely welcoming them in there.
Eddie Brennan was saying when he drives from Graigue-Ballycallan to my Carkey, he said he's going through Urlingford like this. He's like with hand up like that, making sure no one sees him crossing the border. It's mad. It's mad what changes there were. It used to be an Offaly constituency, and then we were thrown in with our good friends in Laois and that. It's mad the way it works. Like, I know Tommy is like put out about people even saying that his house potentially is in the Graigue-Ballycallan, or their home house is in the Graigue-Ballycallan parish. So I don't know what he's going to think about voting within Tipperary now.
De La Salle against Roemore in the other semi-final, and this one is tough to call, and it's going to be the reopening, I suppose, of Walsh Park now that it's been refurbished, and there's more work to come there. But a lot of the talk is the free takers, Ruben Halloran. On the other side, Gavin O'Brien. He didn't miss any at all, I think, the last day. De La Salle still have Kevin Moore and Lord up front, and he has Tonto Douglas up there with him as well. So 2 big men. Jake Dillon, centre back. Jack Fagan, he's at midfield, but pushes up for puck outs. Obviously, big physical man as well. Billy Nolan looked impressive as a sweeper the last day against Roemore as well. So, like, really hard to call this game. And it's probably, is it unfair to say this could be the last interesting game of the Waterford Hurling Championship?
Oh, yeah, well, it's probably harsh maybe, but it's probably somewhat fair too, to be honest with you. This is very, very difficult to call. We obviously did a showdown in Roemore earlier on this year, and getting back to a county final after a difficult day in 2021 would have been one of our goals for the year. This is a 50-50 game. I probably just about fancy De La Salle, because I know from chatting a few down there, I think Donald O'Rourke is involved with them, who's a coach with... He's coach with Pat Ryan in Cork. Very, very, very well regarded. Former Waterford Camogie manager. And I just think when you go through maybe the star power that they have, albeit Kevin Moore a bit older, Tommy Douglas is a good player and would have been teetering around, county squads maybe for the last decade. Jake Dillon, who obviously finished up at Waterford a couple of years ago. Jack Fagan. Jack Fagan's probably the difference maker for me, I'd say. If Romore are able to stop him, and particularly going forward, because he's so dangerous going forward when he gets that head of steam up. But no, I just think De La Salle might squeak this. So I think it'd be De La Salle, Ballygunner in the final.
Yeah, and Lismore against Dunhill in the Waterford relegation final. Could be like Dan Shannon still going strong. We talked about him at 46. He's still probably going to be in this game as well. The Premier Intermediate hurling semi-finals are on. Ferrybank against Shamrocks and Ballygunner against Cappoquin is on this weekend. And I suppose looking at some of the games here, Ahan against Patrickswell, both sides be looking to get back to winning ways after losing the last day out. Like Patrickswell, it was probably a bit of a surprise losing by 2 points to Doon the last time out, but they'll look for a bit of a response here. Ahan, they pushed Kilmallock hard in their last out, and they'll be hoping to obviously address some of the issues there. Kildimo, Pallaskenry, they're up against Kilmallock. Kilmallock are the only team with 2 wins from 2, whereas Kildimo, they've lost both of their games in their first year at the top table, lose to Ahan and the Pearse. Then Doon are also against the Pearse as well. They're on 2 points each after the Pearse bet Kildimo and Patrickswell lost to Doon. So then in the other group, which Group 2, Round 3, there are 3 teams unbeaten heading into this round: Mungret, St. Paul's, Ballybrown and Adair. And I'll just let you run through the fixtures there if you want.
Yeah, so they're facing off against Mungret, St. Paul's. Both teams drew their last games, and this should be tight enough again. Don't know whether Declan Hannon hasn't been back yet. Whether he's going to be back for this or not, I'm not sure. I know he was on a stag there recently in Dingle, but I don't know whether he's going to be back fit to play this. Gary Spillane against Monaleen. So Monaleen had a fairly comprehensive enough defeat to Mungret in the first round, and then they bounced back well the last day, beating South Liberties. And then it's Ballybrown against South Liberties. And on known form, you'd probably have to say Ballybrown are fairly strong favourites going into that one.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, then the next thing we were going to talk about was the end of year Leinster report card. Or should we leave that till Monday?
I think we leave that till Monday. Focus maybe a bit more on the club. We could do that on Monday. We'll have to be fairly harsh on our grades on Monday as well. We'll have to be consistent.
Yeah, no better men to do it. In Cork this weekend, so Group A, Blackrock will face Middleton. Conor Lahan's a major doubt. He came off against Glen Rovers, and Sam Quirke broke his arm in training, so that's not ideal.
Mad to see the Glen are gone, Shane, already as well, isn't it? Like Cork Championship, not even. It's heating up obviously, and the Glen are out of the running, which is a disaster for them.
Yeah, and in this group now, Blackrock and Middleton, they're already through, but this is just basically talking about securing the number 1 seeding and seeing who goes straight through to the semi-finals. If it's a draw, actually, Blackrock, they'll claim top spot in the group because of their score difference. Glen Rovers are against Bishopstown. Group B, then Douglas are against Charleville. So also Erin's Own against Father O'Neill's as well. Group C, Newtown Shandrum against Sarsfields, and St. Finbarr's against Kanturk. Is there anything you want to pick out from that?
No, I think the permutations are kind of tricky enough, are they? There's a lot of different kind of things going into the weekend about who can go through.
Well, the Bars need a win anyway to keep their back-to-back bid alive.
Yeah.
A draw is only good enough if Newtown Shandon don't take maximum points off Sarsfields.
And just on a previous point that we made, they had a heap of boys over in the States that will just have been back in the last couple of weeks. So I'd imagine their hand will be strengthened every week. And I'd imagine they'll have nearly everyone on board for that game this weekend, just when they need them. And again, if they're able to get over that, and get through Kanturk, which they'd be favoured to do, to be fair, they could go on a big run again and they're going to be hard stopped. But it's just a matter of getting over that game first.
Yeah. The Galway Championship is on again this weekend. Tommy Larkins are against Clarenbridge, Ormore Marie against Clymer Daly. St. Thomas's will meet Turlock Moore. So Thomas is looking to go for a 6 in a row. Is it Turlock did it a 5 in a row, or did they actually do a 6 in a row back in the 80s?
Maybe back in the day. Could be even further back again. It could be the 60s. I can't remember. But Thomas's are obviously going to be without Davy Burke. I think he has hopes of getting back to it for a semi-final, but even that is probably limited enough kind of chance, I'd say, at this stage. He did the Cruciate earlier on in the year and then was doing a bit of punditry with GA Go, but he's obviously going to be a massive loss for them. Just flied through a couple of the games there. You have Portumna and Gort, and then in Group 3 you have Kilkenarn against Loughrea. Loughrea seem to be the form team from anything I've seen at the moment, and if Thomas is out without Davy Burke for the knockout stages, like it's just someone needs to step up. They looked like last year they were nearly going to step up, and they were very close to obviously brought them to a draw in a county final. So they'll probably be seen as the biggest contenders. Mike Cullen then against Capatagal, Castlegar against Craughwell, Sarsfields against Ardrahan, and then Kilkenny's kind of heating up again this weekend as well too. Round 4 in Kilkenny.
Yeah, like so if you look at Group A, Glenmore against Greg Ballycallan, James Stevens, the Villager against Erin's Own, and Shamrocks and Ballyhale against Bennett's Bridge. So just the kind of tail of the tape at the moment. Glenmore are top with 3 wins from 3, so they're flying it. James Stevens, Bennett's Bridge, and Ballyhale Shamrocks, they've all got a win, loss, and a draw each. Then Greg Ballycallan, they have 1 win and 2 losses, and then Erin's Own are propping up the rest with 2 losses and 1 defeat there. So Conor Fogarty looks like he might make his comeback this weekend, or is there talk of it anyway?
Yeah, I think he's due to be back this weekend. He broke a rib, as I said in Monday's show, Monday's show. He broke a rib I think midway through the first half and came off at half time. So he should be back. They've really been struggling without him. They've only got a point picked up so far, which obviously will affect the draw that they'll get in those preliminary quarterfinals / relegation games. And Brian Cody's obviously on the line for James Stevens as well. As manager, he didn't wait too long. He was obviously in as selector last year, and he's straight in as manager. So he's not taking any time out. Just on one of the comments there as well, ML89 says Ardrahan v Sarsfields in Galway. That's on TG4 on Sunday. Ardrahan have one of the biggest set of forward lines I've ever seen in a club team. Majority of lads are 6'1" or more, and Johnny Glynn is actually back hurling with them at the moment.
I've played against them twice over the years. They're enormous.
Yeah, like
I don't know what they're feeding them. I remember when I was young, lad thinking Borlahan, like, are they feeding them angel dust down here or what? And it's not the same about Ardrahan.
There's a few teams we've played in Galway. We played Mullia one time, and I just remember thinking, I think it was, is it the Dervins or Mullia? I think they're all big monsters of men. But like Johnny Glynn fitting back into a club forward line. I don't know, there's, some talk, and there's obviously going to be when he switched club allegiance back that potentially he might come back for Galway or that, but he's based in the States, so I still say that's unlikely. He's 30 now as well. If he's going to do it, now is probably the time that he has to do it because time is running out. But he was obviously involved with that New York football team that had the big win over Leitrim earlier on this year. But great for them to obviously have him back. And then just switching to Kilkenny and the other group in Kilkenny, so Dixborough are flying. They're 3 from 3 at the moment. O'Loughlin's are 2 from 3, along with Tullaroan. You've Clara with 1 win from 3, Mundavat the same, and Danesfort are at the bottom of the table with no wins, and they've their scoring aggregate is -35, so they're in a bit of bother at the moment, having just won the intermediate last year. The games this weekend are O'Loughlin's against Clara. That'll be interesting because Brian Hogan is managing O'Loughlin's and his brother Keith is playing for Clara. So that'll be pretty interesting. Dixborough against Mulnavat. Mulnavat won the football championship earlier on in the year. I think it was finished in May. And they'll be looking to go on a run in the Leinster Intermediate again. But Dixborough seem to be flying it. Tullaroan are a team
Tipperary constituents.
Yeah, Tipperary constituents, Tullaroan. They play Danesfort. You'd be expecting them to come out on top there. I think Kilkenny is a bit more open this year than it has been. And if there's a team to step up, I probably would have Tullaroan as that team, to be honest with you. Likes Mossy Keoghan, Tommy Walsh, Pádraig Walsh, Shane Walsh. Tommy is probably still doing a bit, I'm sure. I think Ken Coogan is over them. But they'd be my kind of team. I think they were the team that ran Ballyhale closest last year as well. Outside of, I'd say, Ballygunner in the All-Ireland semi-final, I'd say no one pushed Ballyhale closer than Tullaroan did in that county semi-final last year.
Yeah, and Oisin Langan, who does the GA commentary across the board really and does it for KCLR, he was telling me that Dixborough, after watching our show on Monday, and we were talking about who's been impressive, beyond Ballyhale that might be able to make a burst in an All-Ireland series, he was saying that Dixborough have been very impressive this year. Like even their score rate, they've scored when converted to points 84 in 3 games and conceded just 51. So conceding just 17 points per game, that's very impressive. But it's just always, can they take that next step? Because they always have talent coming, but it's just to frank the form.
Big time.
Yeah, Aidan McGrath there.
He just says Cork apparently not using the new Crow Park mandated system, so that could lead to chaos yet. So obviously the bridge are out in Clare as a result of the kind of new system. There was a big hoo-ha and Offaly football, Senior B football with Gracefield, who I believe are going to the DRA with it now. I'm not 100% sure why, but Cork being Cork are doing their own
Well, this is like,
thing.
just for people who aren't sure, this is where, like, previously, if the head-to-head doesn't decide who goes through, you just go to score differences. But the new mandate is that, let's say there's, several teams that are on head-to-head, 3 teams on head-to-head. They actually just, if they're going to go to scoring difference, it's just between those 3 teams, and everyone else that they've played is discarded, which I think is a better way to do it.
I'd be the same, yeah, because I think it rewards I think it rewards consistency, being honest with you. Yeah, so I definitely do think it is better.
Do you want to hear another good one now? Yesterday, when I was doing Tipcast with Danina Guardian and Shane Brophy, came up with a great call, which is that in Tipperary, if you win your divisional championship, it gives you sort of a backup card to get into a preliminary quarter-final if you don't get through your county group. So there's 4 groups of 4, so the top 2 get through in each. But if you've won your division before that, it gives you a backup, a way back in the back door. But being honest, the north and the mid are bear pits compared with the south and the west. So the south and the west, which is just basically Clonouty have a backup to get in every year, and in the south as well. It's not like there's a huge amount of teams in there that are going to be vying to win the county title. So Shane made the point that if you finish bottom in your 14 group, you shouldn't be allowed to use that. It should only be if you come in 3rd place that you then have the backup of being able to use that, because it forces you to make sure, okay, this team is up to at least a certain standard.
Yeah, you could actually, you're thinking about it, like you could actually kind of throw your games and make no effort until the preliminary quarter-final if you wanted to, if that was your modus operandi. Like you have, it's like anything. You want that jeopardy. It's like anything in life. There has to be that bit of pressure, doesn't there? Like really the pressure to perform, and the absence of a back door or a trap door or something like that definitely puts the pressure on. So I definitely don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to move on to the next championship?
Yeah, the Dublin Hurling Championship, which you're heavily involved in this weekend. Whitehall Columkill, sorry for saying it, they're 0 for 2 going into this weekend. And Luke and Sarsfields are 2-0 going into this weekend. I'm not really sure what to ask you, because you're just going to give me the managerial speak. But I would have said you were better the second day even than you were the first day against Coola. I presume you're hoping for further improvement this weekend.
Definitely. Do you know what's a gas one? Do you know who's involved with Luke and Sarsfields outside of Charlie Carter, who's managed them? And this isn't even manager speak. They are going very well. Like, they've won 2 from 2, beat Coola and Crokes, who've won 7 of the last 8 county titles. But Phil Lanigan, one of our journalistic compatriots, he's involved in the backroom team. And
really? That's gas.
Yeah,
Jesus,
I'm
that's gas.
every game, sure.
Phil is going to come up and hit your shoulder now one of the days, I'd say.
Straight into the back. But this game's going to be out in O'Toole Park in Crumlin. Looking forward to it. Like, I think I think this is a truism, irrespective of it being manager speak as well. As long as the team actually just does itself justice. So against Coola, there was periods where the team did itself justice. The second quarter, absolutely not, and the third quarter, absolutely not against Crokes. But in 3 quarters of the 2 games, I was very happy with what the boys did, and let the result take care of itself there. If for 4 quarters the team performs really well, I'll be happy and I'll take whatever result comes. And I'm sure the rest of the lads are that way too. The Hogans marked each other out in the county final. That's true about Keith Hogan and Brian Hogan before as well. Michael has just dropped there, as about to ask him about his own championship, the Offaly County Championship. So hopefully he'll come back on. I might just bring up a bit of news about Liam McHale and his comments. So Liam McHale has said that a clash of football philosophies lay behind his decision to leave the Mayo management team after just 1 season. And he was saying that there was 5 of us there, and the 4 lads had a totally different philosophy on how the team should play than what I did. I'll just bring you back in a second there.
I just said I'd leave you sweat there while you were talking about Whitehall.
Yeah, that was pretty sound, yeah. I was just going on about Liam McHale's comments, because they're going to bring it back to Offaly after that. But he says, I'm surprised at Kevin, because normally we'd be in sync. I just felt there's no point in me being in there when I'm so far removed from their thinking. I didn't want to drag anybody down, and I didn't want to upset the flow of the whole thing. I thought it was the right thing to do. Like, if you're in, and we'll come back to Dublin as well if you want to talk about that, but like, if you're in the room with other people and they're just thinking differently, and you just kind of feel like, I don't know, you're totally removed from whatever they're obviously, if the majority is going to rule, which it generally will, and the manager will have the final say, and you're kind of thinking completely differently to the rest of them, and every decision that you want is kind of contravening what they want to do, and you're being outvoted all the time, whether it's done in a nice way or there's a kind of a harmonious departure, you do want to be out of that room. If you just feel like anything you have to offer isn't really on the table.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've definitely been in that position in different walks of life, be it GA or otherwise, where you just people that you find it maybe not that you find it maybe you find it difficult to work with them because you just don't agree with their philosophies or whatever. And as part of a management team, we kind of flagged this up when the managerial race was going on in Mayo, that the amount of big names, that's one thing, but like, let's call a spade a spade. There's obviously going to be some egos involved here. Like it's only natural. Like you have an ego, I have an ego. We all have. Yours is a bit more inflated than mine is, but like, and you're talking about big personalities here, like really big personalities. Liam McHale is a big personality, as is Kevin McStay, as is Stephen Rochard, as is Donny Buckley, years of experience. So they're all not going to agree on different things. The only thing here is that Liam obviously did an interview, and I think it was for local radio in Ballina, and the question is going to be asked, and he just gave an honest answer, to be fair to him. And
That's the way he
did,
is.
yeah, he didn't. He said he wasn't going to hang around, and he also said he was a bit surprised that Kevin, who's his brother-in-law as well, and they would have been together they were together in Bridget's when they won the All Ireland. They were together in Roscommon when they went on a good run as well. But maybe his head has been turned another way with other people's views on coaching or whatever. And it's a tricky one. But then there's talks now. Liam McHale been linked with the Clare job. Mick Bowen has also been linked, given his familial links there, and the fact that he was coach under Colin Collins as well. But it is a difficult one. If I'm sure you've had this even in workplaces as well, when your philosophies differ with others. And it's not really like you can't get away from them. If they're part of a management team, you've seen them 3 or 4 times a week, you can't get away from them. So the only way to finish up is probably cut the cord. And I wouldn't expect Liam to be replaced either, because, geez, they've a wealth of coaching nous and experience there. It's just people don't always agree on everything. They lock horns and things, and I'd say that was probably the case here. And he was, as you say, he was probably been outvoted on various decisions, and that's demoralising. You take that every now and then. It's like if me and you were picking an all-star team here every week, and I just went with every decision that you made. You know, I'd be like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll see
Generally,
you
I've
next
had to
day.
capitulate for you.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, which is unlike you, as I said, with your inflated ego. But
Who has the bigger ego, me or Bernie? Here's a question
stop,
from
will you?
viewers.
No. I think we did something similar like this in a Twitter poll, and you were a resounding winner.
I romped home, did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the other fixtures in Dublin then, Plunkett's are against St. Vincent's. So, Pat Gilroy's at the helm there. Diarmuid Connolly's playing. Plunkett's had they've the likes of Keane Boland and their common team. The other fixtures, Kilmacud are against Bridget's. That's in the same group that the Whitehall and Coola and Lucan are in as well. Crokes will be fancied there. I mean, Crokes are coming to the boil nicely. There was like that second half, when we were playing them with Whitehall, and just the first period or the first half of the second half, they were just on fire. Dara Purcell, and this is, they don't have Ronan Hayes at the moment, and there's 1 or 2 others to come back. And like, this is what I said before, like, teams don't have their full selection this early in the summer, or certainly, going up to a few weeks ago, teams will probably only get stronger from here. But of course, some teams are going to be out. But like, Crokes are looking fairly irresistible. Like, it's going to be a big challenge for St. Bridget's. But, we've seen in recent years that they can rise it for them, and they do have plenty of quality. So that should be a good game all the same. I think that one's going to be on Dubs TV.
Quick one for you. Like, is Chris Crummy back with Lucan? Yes.
No, he hasn't been seen so far this year. So
Liam Rush, no. Nafina, no.
I actually haven't. I didn't catch that game that Nafina had a couple of, was it Friday a couple of weeks ago, in the thunder and rain they won very comprehensively. I'm not sure about Rush. I haven't seen Chris Crummy back. Who knows? Maybe he'll appear at this weekend at O'Toole Park. Wouldn't be sure. But
Keane O'Callaghan back? No. Keane O'Callaghan back with Coola? No. Okay.
No, and no David Tracy either.
Not a million. Like, it's not a million miles removed from when Dublin will be going back. Like, Dublin will be going back in a couple of months. Dublin senior hurlers. So you'd wonder whether a lot of these guys are going to be on board for 2024, because chances are, if they're not on board in November, December of this year, they won't be, you won't see them next year. So be interesting to see. Crummy, I would say, in particular.
Yeah, he'd be a very big player. And Fogs are against Nafina this weekend as well. And Nafina were very good against, it was Plunkett's that they played there that Friday a couple of weeks ago. So I think Fogs will be kind of a bit concerned about making sure that Nafina don't get a run on them. And that is the thing when you're kind of coming up to Senior A. trying to get used to that level of competition, especially like, and I'm not entirely sure. I think those two teams are playing up in Division 1 in the league. But if you haven't been exposed to these teams, the A teams in Division 1 league, it's then fair jump to just go up to Championship. It takes you a couple of games to get used to it. But loads of games going on there. Offaly this weekend. Tell us the tale of the tape there.
Yeah, not too many massive games with ramifications here because it's round 5 and most of the teams are through. Ballyhale and Shinrone are both through, and Shinrone have been fairly decent since winning the county title last year. They've backed it up already, albeit just in group games. Ballyhale have been one of the better teams, I'd say, so far this year as well. They've Dan Ravenhill is obviously eligible for Adult Hurling this year too. Rhinus against Kennedy. Rhinus were beaten by Kilcormac the last day. They'd be two of the favourites to win the championship. Kilcormac are probably marginal favourites. Kennedy are teetering with relegation. Burr playing Kilcormac this weekend. As I said, Kilcormac are going pretty well in Senior A and Senior B. And it would probably be favoured to win that game by a couple of points. The biggest game of the weekend is Belmont against Coolderry. Basically, this is kind of a winner takes all. Whoever wins is through to a quarter final. Whoever loses is out. So massive ramifications there. As regards who's kind of going best at the moment, you'd have to say Kilcormac are going best. They're pulling from a massive panel. Their Senior B team is even flying as well. Like, I think who are the main lads that have come up from the 20s this year? Adam Screeney's playing senior, Brecon Kavanagh's playing senior, Colin Spain, might be one or two more, but there's a nice few of them mingled in with the Senior Bs as well. They've serious strength and depth. No team in Offaly would have the colour of the strength and depth that Kilcormac have. It's probably a matter of time, I'd say. If they win one, they could win, several within a space of 8 to 10 years, I'd imagine.
And is Adam Screeney taken to senior like a duck to water?
Not. He's been good. I haven't seen him in the flesh, but he's been good from what I've been hearing. He's going to take a fair bit of marking. Even though he's fairly lightweight for senior level. And you can see from various games as well that he's able to take a bit of punishment too, and he's going to take it too. But he's done fine. He's done fine so far. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And ML89 just says, if Kilcormac win the title this year, could they go on a new period of domination? They've completely dominated underage. A good bit recent. Yeah, no, I'd fairly echo those sentiments too. Yeah, a lot of those guys coming up through underage haven't really lost games, and they've won Division 2 failures, and they've competed in All-Ireland minor finals and competed in All-Ireland under-20 finals. I think it's only a matter of time.
Okay, in Antrim this weekend, O'Donovan Rossa against Clooney Gales. Dunloy will meet St. John's. Ballycastle meets Naveena, and a battle to see who comes top. Lochgiel against Cushendall. Also, the Monaghan hurling final is on this weekend. Castleblaney against Inniskeen. Castleblaney going for 7 in a row. Let's be honest, we're not too sure of the ins and outs of this match, but we'll make Castleblaney, I suppose, favourites, given that they're looking
for their history, and given they're going for 7 in a row, it'd make them fairly roaring half favourites. You'd have to say. Just moving to a bit of football. We obviously talked about Liam McHale's comments there. Some big games in Mayo this weekend. Gary Moore against O'Neill. Balla against Briefy. Briefy were beaten last time out on the telly. Ballina Stephenites against Mayo Gales. Charlestown against Clare Morris. Balladreen against Westport. Westport are obviously defending champions. Ballintubber against Belmullet. And you have Castlebar Mitchells against Ahamore and Ballyhonus against Knockmore. Just a quick